Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Drew Crosby, and I'm the president with Sportsplug 757. Alongside me, I have Andy Hilton with Recruit757 and Coach Tommy Reamon with City on My Chest. Today, we're going to have a simple discussion about innovation versus legacy, as well as talking about how media impacts our athletes today and what we can do as platforms to better collaborate and help those athletes in our area. Well, again, Mr. Hilton, we appreciate you joining us on this podcast and having Tommy Reamon here with us as well. We're going to be able to have a lot of insight, and I wanted to talk about a lot of the things that I guess we are enduring or seeing at Sportsplug 757 versus what you've seen over the years, and we're talking about 20 plus as we've grown this thing as far as media in our area. So it's been pretty awesome. But one of my questions as we roll into it is can you share anything about your journey and what inspired you when you first started Recruit 757? What really made you choose to plant your flag here in this industry and take it as far as you did?
First of all, thanks for having me. It's all awesome to get together and chop it up. And we could start almost anywhere, but I was born and raised here and always a big sports fan. So it's very easy for me to fall in love with the talent here, know the history of the talent here, and be excited about supporting it. And that really was what was behind Recruit 757 to begin with, was a belief that we had a lot of athletic talent here, and a lot of it is not getting the exposure that it needed. Somebody's got to do it, and if nobody else is doing it, and it really was, I didn't like the way other outlets were doing it, because as an example, the newspaper exists to cover all the sports pretty much in their season, as an example.
That's right.
But they're not there to be an ally or an advocate for the athlete. They're just simply reporting the news and they move on. So the kids here that really need a little extra push, a little extra promotion, often weren't getting it because there's only so many resources, and typically the top 5% of the kids were the ones getting all the exposure.
Absolutely. And that's a continued conversation that's going on right now as we continue to grow. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but moving over to you, Tommy, you were a quarterback. You played at Gloucester, and you've been an athlete a little bit before I think Recruit 757 started. Yeah. And I know once you got out of the space of high school sports and you started to see the things that were happening for younger guys, and they were being accompanied by Recruit 757 and its services, I'm pretty sure you were like, hey, I wish we had this when I played. I'm pretty sure you were like, this is new, this is different. I could probably utilize this as an athlete. What did that look like for you? Not only coming up as an athlete, but just seeing the innovation and the new ways that they were doing it at that time.
For me, I was blessed. I had my father in my life who kind of gave me the game. So when it came to exposure and what camps to go to, I kind of had the inside scoop. But for my teammates or other kids who didn't have kind of that role model or mentor, it was kind of a gray area. So I know for me, I was blessed to be highly recruited. I was Rivals, Top 25, ESPN Scout, Tom Lemmings, for the ones that's been around for a long time. I got that exposure, but my teammates or other kids in the district didn't. And like somebody like Andy was needed. And when he came about, I still remember saying like, man, I wish we had him a couple years ago, because we would have a lot of more guys in college, in school, exposure. So I was blessed, but it was long overdue.
Absolutely.
Because it's a ton of talent. And like you said, those top guys may get all the attention, but there's a school for everybody. My dad always says.
Absolutely.
There is a school for everybody. So platforms like Andy, and then to see you guys come, I'm like, yo, this is long overdue, and I hope it's here to stay.
Absolutely. And that was great. We talked about inspiration, and you shared that with me off camera earlier. I see when I played, there was a lot of inspiration, not only for the school that I played for, having camps and being accompanied by Recruit 757 myself during that time. There was a lot of things to look forward to, those articles, those opportunities, things of that nature. Now we're moving more so where you see everything right in front of you when you wake up, right from the palm of your hand, on Instagram, YouTube, so many social media platforms. And now this has become like an obvious source of inspiration for an athlete that wakes up every day trying to get after it. So for you, Mr. Hilton, is that something that you foreseen, in the past, like you seen this type of thing coming? Did you see it reaching the levels that it has?
I saw a whole evolution from the time I started. It's interesting that when Recruit 757 was coming about, 2010 was when we started.
Wow.
And there was a few years of prep prior to that, which I'm sure we'll cover at some point while we're here talking together. But at the time, you think about it, Facebook was brand new. Huddle didn't exist. So realistically, there were a lot fewer opportunities than there are now. Now there's so many media outlets
Yes.
routes to go that it's going to be hard for anybody to keep up with them all, really. So you have an embarrassment of riches in the standpoint of so many different options, but still, as Tommy mentioned, you're filling that gap. Not many people are filling the gap of representing the kids who need the help, who need the push. And so going back to what I started at that time, I looked at kids that needed the exposure beyond the top few that were getting it. What could we do to connect them with colleges? What do they need to know for college opportunities? What media do we need to put it out, put it through? So realistically, I got started shooting game film because Huddle didn't exist, and shooting and getting in touch with colleges. And specifically, I got my start asking, go back to my alma mater, University of Memphis, was one of the starting points, because I remember very specifically being at a football game. It was Western Branch versus Indian River, attending with a couple of friends of mine who were also alumni of University of Memphis, and saying, that kid doesn't have any offers, and he's a junior. This kid's a senior. He doesn't have offers. This one, that one. Wow, these guys are great. Why isn't Memphis recruiting them?
Of course.
And of course, you learn, I wanted to find out. So I called University of Memphis and talked to the football secretary, and then talked to the recruiting coordinator and asked specifically, this kid, why aren't you recruiting them? And his question was, why should we recruit them? Which is an honest question.
Absolutely.
Because Memphis is 1,000 miles away, and as you learn the game of recruiting, their priorities at the time were the Gulf Coast. So they recruited around the Gulf of Mexico, very specifically Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia. That was their heavy recruiting area. So they didn't come to Virginia. So then you ask the question, why don't you come to Virginia? Why? You can imagine all the questions that come of it, but my start was asking those questions, finding out those answers, and then figuring out, what can I do? I was motivated at that point. What can I do to get Memphis here to get them to recruit these kids? And then what sparked Recruit757 was I got laid off from my corporate gig at Wavy and Fox. I was pretty high up manager, national sales manager, but had a passion for football and had been attending high school football games for years, and actually had several friends who were coaches. And there's all these interweaving things, but I had had University of Memphis come out to recruit in 2009, and the recruiting coach said, you really know a lot of people, you know your stuff, you should start a recruiting service, out of the blue. I went, I should start a recruiting service. Okay, what would that look like? So I didn't even know at that point what it was all about. I just had a passion for getting kids recruited. Absolutely. And then lo and behold, in January, it was February 1st of 2010, due to the economic downturn of 08 and 09 and the downsizing, whatever, they just did away with my job, gave me a severance package and said, love having you working here. I'd worked there for 11 years. Wow. And good luck. Had a conversation with my wife, had a conversation with God, and had some deep thoughts and prayers, and came up with, I've got this passion for seeing kids succeed, and I want to see University of Memphis succeed, because at the time they were just kind of getting into a regularly competitive mode. D'Angelo Williams had just come through. Yes. I mean, they had some players, but they really weren't at the level of recruiting that an SEC school would be. And I thought, instead of putting my effort to getting kids to Memphis, why don't I put my effort toward getting colleges here? And that was what sparked Recruit757. And then I looked at what I needed to do after having talked to Memphis and talked to some other schools. What do they need to recruit here, and what can I do to make the kids who are here irresistible for these college coaches? And as Tommy may have mentioned, I believe you mentioned, there's a place for everybody. Yeah. And that developed also very quickly into part of the story was, if I want colleges to recruit here, then I have to not have a preference. First of all, don't have a preference on where anybody goes. You go where you need to go. Absolutely. Go where it's best for you, but also not discriminate against D2, D3, JUCO. There's opportunities for everybody, and the main thing is, for me at the time was,
it's a nugget,
was get on the field, use your athletic ability to leverage a college education that'll serve you for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. That's the
And
end of
that
the
was all, in that short time frame of me launching it, those were all the things that went through the process of me saying, I love college football and I want to see my college football program succeed, to I care a lot about the kids here and I care about the talent here and I want to see them succeed, and here's what I'm going to have to do to get there.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And I'm going to.
And so it evolved a lot, and so it evolved even over the years after, over the first few years after that. But that's a long answer to a short question.
For sure, it's a continuous growth. And for you, Tommy, being a quarterback before that time, and it was different camps, a lot of different opportunities still at the time before Andy Hilton, before Recruit 757. What did the recruiting stage really look like here for us in this area, and how do you look at that now compared to the era of Recruit 757?
It goes back to just having that inside father in the house / coach. Like Andy said, every school has a recruiting area. So a lot of times we don't know that this is why that school is invisible here, is because they don't recruit this area unless you're just such an exceptional talent that you're getting the national attention.
There's only so many coaches and so many hours in the day and so much
Absolutely.
territory each coach
You
can
can't cover it all. Yeah, so you got to pick and choose your territory. So for me, it was all about going to the camps that's at the universities, because you wanted to be in front of, the coaches. You wanted to be on their campus, being visible. And then it was also some bigger camps like the Nike camp. What else was around at the time? Jeff Trickey had a popular quarterback camp. It was certain camps that you could go to that you knew that if you balled out, you would get a story right up on you. Rivals is covering this camp. And that way, so now you're just not leaving impressing the coaches. You're leaving impressing the coaches, and you got a story that's out there on Google about you that people can see. So for me, it was all about being in front of the right coaches, the right crowd at the right time. We were blessed to, one of the biggest things I had for me, that we were blessed that at the time, Vic had an AirTran contract with the plane company. So he put us on the list that we could fly free. So my dad asked me, what Nike camp do you want to go to? I'm looking at all the spots on the map. We're going to Los Angeles. We went to the Nike camp at USC just because it was affordable for us, because we didn't have to pay for it. So even when I went out there and had a great camp, now it's national news that this kid from Virginia came all the way out here. So it's some tricks to the trade when it comes to recruiting. And not saying every kid got to travel across the country to get noticed, but I'm just talking about my experience of putting yourself out there. You got to be willing to get in the car and go somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not saying it got to be California, but these schools, you have to get on campus.
Absolutely.
Whether it's Division I, Division II, Division III, get on campus, be seen. And if you really have talent, they're going to acknowledge you, and your recruiting will start from there.
And let me ask you guys, how do you guys feel about camps then and camps now? Like I was talking to somebody on Facebook. We have a lot of supporters that share their insight and things like that. When we talk about camps, I believe that they're very, very important, because it gives a space for those athletes, like you said, that aren't that top 5% to have a chance to be seen like everybody else. And it was brought to my attention, hey, during the season, we're only seeing certain athletes. We're only seeing the ones that everybody knows about, but that's during the season. These are the kids that are working hard on the off season to make that spot to be the top 5 during the season. These are the athletes that the school is choosing to promote, in a sense, right? So for us, when we're looking for these kids and we want to continue to, fish for those ones that aren't being seen, that are probably somewhere lost deep down in the depth, and, get them seen, we want to be at those camps. We want to push people to still continue to go to these camps. It's not just so much about Virginia Tech or UNC or the big name camps, as we, if you can, definitely we tell you, we urge you, we push you to go to those. But at the same time, there's the ones that are being utilized here, like Tommy's showcase, right? Where he's picking the top all-stars to be in those games to get seen at the last minute. I know it was a few athletes from your game that got chances to go to schools even after that. And for you, I thank you for helping out the community. I'm pretty sure so many people are appreciative of those efforts. But for you guys, like camps today, do you think that they're still needed? And I'm talking about the independent, bring the athletes to us types of things. Do you feel like the regimen that you were putting together is still needed here today?
Absolutely, and I will say, I'll take the opposite, or to oppose Tommy's experience. In my opinion, those Nike camps and the ones like them already know who they want to see.
Absolutely.
It's about clout.
Yes, yes.
So the more athletes they can gather, the more athletes they can gather at those events that have impressive names that rivals and 24/7 and folks like that will write about, then that just increases the clout of the Nike camp. So it's all about each element feeding off the other, and they're all trying to elevate their clout, their persona, their view of, or how people view them. So people will view that Nike camp as being the one to go to, but unfortunately, it's the one to go to if they already know who you are.
Absolutely. I agree.
So if you don't have a name yet, and I preach this to kids over and over again, the best place you can go is college camps, because that's where the recruiting happens. The colleges can't go to these Nike camps and all these other headline type events, and they really don't pay a lot of attention to the data that's gathered from those camps, because it's too easy, not to say that they're not honest about their numbers, but it's too easy for somebody to make a mistake, or too easy for somebody to assume that that number is not, that was just that day.
Yep.
He can run a 4.240, okay, I'll believe it when I see it. Come to my camp and run a 4.240 and I'll believe it.
Yep.
So it really, all you're doing at a Nike camp is showcasing yourself to get your name out there, but not really affecting your recruitment. Because typically your recruitment's already underway if Nike has asked you to come to their camp. And then there's a whole lot of kids who get lost in the background in those camps, because if you're not one of the top names, the coaches aren't looking out for you. You're going to have to fight to get your reps. And that's a whole nother thing, is when you go to a camp, you better get your reps. You paid your money, or in case some of these are free camps, but you're there to get seen. You're not there to watch all the other top guys do their thing. You got to make your reps and make your statement. But going back to the whole college camps thing, it's always my belief that college camps are where to go, because that's where you're going to get scholarship offers. That's where you're going to get recruited. And you were at Old Dominion as a working within the football program, and I know you saw how Old Dominion recruits.
Absolutely. And to piggyback off what Andy said, those college camps, even though it's Virginia Tech, so many smaller schools are coming to that camp. So it's not just Virginia Tech at that camp. You have Division 1s, Division 2s, and Division 3s, some NAIAs that's at this camp working to
You
find
see Fork
talent.
Union there.
Yeah, you'll see talent. The talent is so spread out, and these coaches know that, hey, even though this is a UVA camp, I'm going to find some kids that can play at my program.
Absolutely.
So I challenge kids again to get out to these camps. Like Andy said, those bigger name camps, Nike, is political.
Absolutely.
If you have a name already, usually when you go there, they already know who they're looking for. Unless you are a specimen and you come running the crazy 4.21s or bench pressing 1,000 pounds to open some eyes, that's very rare though, just being honest. So usually you go, you pay your money if it's not free. Hopefully you got your reps. But now a lot of parents and kids can record their own self at camps. Before it was like only the kid that was impressing everybody kind of got coverage. Now you'll see every parent in the stands, recording their kids working out, which is a bonus, because now you want to be able to say, hey, he was at this camp, or if he didn't get you didn't get a good story, I can prove why you should have got a story, because he won all his reps today.
There we go.
He ran a good 40 time. He did bench press. So all in all, it's camps everywhere. And you have to know the difference between camps that really can add value or somebody that's trying to collect money, respectfully.
Yeah.
Because everybody can say, hey, we got a camp now. And it's not just colleges. It's all these different, brands or businesses that say, hey, we do this, we do that, come to our camp, but really don't have much to show for what they can do for the kid, or proof that they've done it for the kid already, exposure-wise, scholarship-wise, college coaches. Like, biggest thing my dad did at our showcase, he guaranteed it's going to be, these coaches are going to be here because we confirmed with them.
Yeah.
Not just come show up and see who shows up. Like, no, North Carolina A&T is going to be here, Duke's going to be here, Virginia Tech's going to be here, Virginia Union is going to be here. We made those guarantees, which a lot of camps can't do. So when you can find camps that do say, hey, these coaches will be here, that's a good camp.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The camps that add value, and it's all about doing the research behind it, knowing who you are.
Well, and that's one thing I'll add to that. Knowing is definitely know know your fit. Two,
There we go.
know where you want to be. And so I would encourage kids to go to Virginia Tech, UVA, Carolina, South Carolina, Clemson. If you want to live in this, if you like warm weather, as an example, then why are you going to Penn State?
Yeah.
because you're
That's
not going to
true.
go to a college up there, because even at Penn State, you're not at the Penn State level. Guess who the colleges are that are going to be there recruiting, as Tommy mentioned, all these other
Surrounding
schools.
area.
It's the ones around the area of Penn State.
And
So
most
you
people
don't
don't
want to
know
live
that.
up in the cold weather, don't go camping there. Go south. Go to North Carolina, Tennessee, whatever fits, but know what kind of weather you want, know what kind of degree. I mean, granted, I know degrees tend to be less important these days with NIL, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
But if there's a degree program you want, certainly if there's a school size you want, because sometimes big schools overwhelm kids, sometimes a small school might be too boring. Do you want to be in a little rural area? Do you need to be in the city? Do you need to be at a school where the kids look like you? Speaking of HBCUs versus non-HBCUs or anything else where there's a different kind of student mix, the demographics of the students might make a difference to some kids.
Absolutely.
But the thing is to educate yourself about the school opportunities that are out there, about the school, not just the football program, and know what you like, figure out what you like. And I've told this to plenty of parents is, you're not going to be the one getting up at 5 in the morning to go to lift, to work out, to go film study, to all these things that college football players have to do. College football is a job.
Absolutely.
And mom and dad aren't going to be there to wake you up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get your butt out of bed and get to where you need to go. And if
Get
you
to
can't
work.
do it, then you're going to have a problem.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree.
I was told, my dad, with all the experience he has, he looked at me and said, you have to live here for 4 years. So I can't make the decision for you. You have to get up. You have
You're
to
lucky
like
you
get
had
up.
your dad
Yep.
saying that, because there's way too many parents out there to say, I want my boy to go to Tech.
Yep.
And they get stuck on that, and they want,
And they
and
don't
their
know
son's
exactly
not good
why.
enough for Tech, or that just is not a fit, and it's a disservice to the kid to push him toward Tech when that's just not the right place for him, either at his level of play or the kind of college experience he wants.
I believe that whether it's parents or players with these college teams, we always. I grew up saying, "Hey, I'm going." At one point, when I played quarterback, just like regular league time, I'd probably be
You was a
quarterback.
quarterback? You was a QB?
I started out. And then
okay.
a few honey buns later, then this is what we got. And
You
I
got to
was
be able to see over the lineman.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There we go too. So it was a height thing as well, but at the same time, I had a good time playing D tackle when I played in high school.
Okay.
But for me, I seen a lot of athletes that came out of the high school realm, and they had like a dream school that they wanted to go to and things of that nature, and they kind of ran with it. And I'm not here to say that like it didn't go well or anything like that, but I did see a few differences between those athletes that I saw then and the ones that I'm kind of working with now, who kind of do have parents who are taking those natural steps. I mean, having the conversations off the hour, on the hour, asking the coaches these questions, and if the coaches are responding, in the proper manner, of course, it's a relationship that's built there. And I was just working with an athlete, hands-on, where I've seen there's different relationships with the coaches. They all show great hospitality and things of that nature, and welcome them there, and they want them to be there, be a big part. But again, there's some deciding factors that come with not only you as an athlete for the coaches, but also the coaches and the parents need to be able to kind of sniff those things out as well. So it's always big for not only coaching the player on the recruiting process, but the parent, because that's who they're going to end up talking to first. It's going to become a time where mom and dad and that coach are the only ones in the room, and they're going to want to know some things that maybe you're not educated on telling them yet, or you just haven't told them yet. So again, it's all about making sure that everything is in alignment throughout this process, because once you start to enter that realm of clearinghouse and things like that, you are a business. And we have to treat it as such. So that's what we tell a lot of the athletes that we work with today. And I just see you hitting on a lot of those things, and it just reminded me of how important it is. And we'll talk about more of that, but that's amazing. So when we talk about the early stages of Recruit757 and the way that the media operated then towards now, and we see that at the time it didn't take much for Recruit757 to make an imprint other than just caring. And you caring and having a passion for it allowed you to, run camps, do articles, and also help a few players, if not a lot of players, with their successes and getting seen. And now we're moving towards a place where it's a lot faster. This is why we call it kind of like legacy meets innovation, because I feel like my team and I now, we found a way to innovate the way that the foundation was laid, and kind of just made it more of a little bit of a faster process, but taking our time to make sure that we're making as much of an impact as Recruit757 was. So again, my question was, how did media operate in the sports world early stages of Recruit 757? Was media looked upon? Was it looked for? Was it supported? How did that
Looked for by the parents, looked for by the colleges, looked for by
everybody?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's whole different. Again, when I started, Facebook had just gotten underway. YouTube was only 4 years old at the time Recruit 757 started. Video was what got Recruit 757 started, because realistically, when I asked Memphis, why aren't they recruiting these kids? And the question was, why do I need to recruit them? I need to be able to answer that question.
Absolutely.
Well, because he's got a good arm, because he does, okay, but I need to know more specifics. And game film answered those questions. And so I could shoot a game and do cut-ups, because Huddle didn't exist. So I had a team, I assembled a team of videographers, shot as many games as I could, did cut-ups, and as I did cut-ups for schools like University of Tennessee and Memphis, I mean, there was a handful of schools that really started what I was doing from college recruiting standpoint.
Absolutely.
And I went from shooting game film and FedExing that stuff out so they'd have it on Monday morning. That's what they paid for back then. They'd burn it to a DVD over the weekend and send it on Monday for them to get it on Tuesday. But having that depth of film that wasn't being distributed otherwise, I took and did, hey, that kid needs to be recruited, that kid, and I did cut-ups on kids that didn't even know I did cut-ups on them, because they needed it, and Huddle didn't exist, and so the technology, the media wasn't there. So realistically, there was the video aspect first, and then there was also, in order, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be known, you have to be on the web. I need to have a website. So as look, you couldn't just be, oh, I'm the Facebook guy. So you have a Facebook page, you have a website, it's Instagram, it's YouTube, and I'm a marketer. I'm a marketing guy, and that's what I do for a living now. But my concept has always been, you want to make every element feed the other, and what's your goal? In this case, the goal was get website traffic. So Facebook drove traffic to the website. YouTube drove traffic to the website. Twitter, Instagram, all of it drove traffic to the website. And then it's developing partnerships. And I knew folks in the television industry, as an example, and knew people in the radio industry. So I did a weekly segment on Sports Talk radio, and during football season, did a weekly segment with Wavy Sports Rap, and built it from there. And all of that added to credibility that today, radio is not as big of a deal as it was 10, 15 years ago. Even local television isn't as big of a deal as it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Definitely.
So realistically, the viewing audience, or the media is, the consumption of media is so spread out that it's hard to get traction. I would believe it'd be harder for you to get traction than it would have been for me, and certainly hard to get critical mass compared to what it used to be.
Absolutely. It's so many different people doing kind of sort of the same thing. You know, you got so many different sources, and I know at that time it wasn't so many surrounding companies. It was Recruit 757. That was probably just it. And again, like, yeah, I mean,
locally it was Virginia Preps.
Oh,
it
yeah,
was the
absolutely.
newspaper,
Virginia Preps.
and there was nothing else.
But and there was only a certain amount of things that they were probably covering at the time.
And that was what the hole that I saw was, the newspaper would cover a sport in the season, and they wouldn't do much more than produce scores and a story of interest a few times a week, a few different stories. Virginia Preps, being part of Rivals, wanted to, or probably was dictated, that they need to do a story on the #1 quarterback and the Virginia Tech prospect and the UVA prospect and the whoever, and so they're doing this deep of a look at the football talent, and there's all of this depth that wasn't being paid attention to. So I said, I can do what Rivals does locally and do it well, and I can do what the newspaper does, and that is get out to every single game I possibly can, because I already had a team of videographers shooting videos. So then it became, via social media, the biggest step was updating every score from every game, everywhere, and being on top of it. And that meant working a lot of hours and being everywhere all the time as much as possible. But that's where the credibility came in. Quickly got, I don't know how, tens of thousands of Twitter followers, because on Friday night, even the newspaper at that time wasn't doing a Twitter feed of, here's the scores, score by score, as it's happening from every game in the area. And so where are you going to go if you love high school football and you want to keep up with it? You're going to go to Recruit757 Twitter feed because you know whatever score is going to have going on, that's the only place that it's available.
And that's awesome. I mean, and not just us, it's just so many other people, but like we have, like right now on Twitter at 757 team, shout out to Larry Obama. He's one of the ones that's...
And when I say newspaper,
Yeah.
that's not saying anything derogatory about
For
what
sure.
Larry does or anybody, any of the newspaper guys
for
do.
sure.
They do what they need to do. They make a living and they do it under the ownership of the newspaper.
Oh, for sure.
So they do it within the limitations that they have, and they've done great things for decades.
Absolutely. And so, like, you would understand, like, in growing, being at different games, and my partner and I, we have a team as well. We're at different games. There might be games that we might not catch that night, and although they might not be the hottest games of the night or the ones to watch, we still want to make sure we're putting them on display. You know, that's important. So we definitely refer to whatever, the score updates and things that they're putting out on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah, there's so many sources for that now.
Definitely, it's just out there. So we definitely gravitate towards using that if we need the information to kind of help get it out on a broader scale as well, because we respect the work that everybody is doing. And just like I tell a lot of our camera personnel, you can shoot all day, and if that's your goal to do that, create the best quality product, then that's fine. But if you want people to see it, there's ways to utilize that as well, and that's kind of why we created this network in a sense.
And
so
the
it makes
interesting thing
sense.
to piggyback on that, getting all those scores, there were quite a few times where my resource was one of the football parents. So I get text messages from the football because nobody else is paying attention to Great Bridge Hickory
like
or
history
whatever.
repeating itself.
Whatever game is not on the radar, not as much on the radar. But I know a parent at Great Bridge or Hickory or wherever the school may be, and hey, you're going to be at the game Friday night, right?
Yep.
Text me updates,
There we go.
and boom.
Makes it easy, and they're going to do it because they want
They
that to
want
be
their
shown.
exposure for their program. They want exposure for the kid. It deepens the relationship with the parent. And realistically, when I worked it, I wasn't about, let me get a source or let me get my foot in.
Yeah.
It was, what can I do to help this parent understand the recruiting process and benefit the kid so the kid gets off to a successful college education.
Absolutely.
No matter where that is.
Absolutely. I think that's the way we lead too. And it's funny how that evolved. It goes into my next question, but we have insight sources as well that goes, whether it's a student that goes to school, a former player or parent, or a coach. It's so many different ways this time, but it's not only us just getting score updates or anything like that. We post stuff where we get clips sent. Right, of a hit or interception. It might be their son. It might be this. It's just see how much it's changed.
You want to talk about something that's changed? How about camera technology and a cell phone?
Camera technology
That really didn't exist. There was no camera in a cell phone, no video camera worth anything in a cell phone 15 years ago.
So before we roll into that, my question is with that though, in you guys' opinion, I want to know from both of you guys, what are the most significant changes you see in the sports media that have actually impacted athletes' exposure?
I've been talking a lot, Tommy. Go ahead.
It's funny just listening to, you guys go back and forth. Kids right now in 2024, one game, this kid will have more pictures of him than I had my entire 4 years playing football from one game.
Sheesh. Yeah.
It was either the news, which was rare.
Right. It was.
Virginia Preps, which was rare.
Well, you were in Gloucester.
Yes.
Which makes it even worse.
Yes.
Hate to say it for
So
Gloucester.
look, so now you're hoping like your yearbook team is out there getting pictures.
Yeah.
Like Andy said, the cell phone of just snapping away wasn't a thing. So now it's like, you're like, I literally have like 5 to 6 good pictures of my 4 years in high school that I can still say like, hey, this was a good picture of me. Like today, these kids, snap. Like the exposure is like through the roof. And they take it for granted because that's all they know. I'm low-key jealous, looking like, man, they so lucky. Like,
Well, that was another way of gathering an audience for me because I had a team of photographers on top of video. So I wanted, when I'm sending stuff to colleges, I want to show them what this kid looks like, not to mention when you're publishing a website, you want pictures for a website. So I had probably, let's just say 8 or 10 photographers. So when you can, over the course of a month, cover every school in the region, if you needed to, that makes a difference, and it also increases engagement because I shared everything. So Facebook, if I took 200 good pictures, then 200 pictures got posted to Facebook.
Gotcha.
And kids, everybody got something as much as possible.
And speaking of sharing, one thing that you guys do a great job is collaborating with other photographers. Like, I go to y'all page and literally it looked like you guys covered the whole region because it's pictures from all games, this
Yeah.
game,
Yeah,
that game,
that's
that
the way to
game.
go.
And I'm looking, I'm like, okay, they collabing. I'm like, yo, that's genius. You know, we can't physically be there, but we're building this network of these photographers and videographers. Like, let's work together.
Yes.
Like, you're gonna be there, let's collab. You know, so they love your platform or the exposure they can get. You want to be visible at all these games. So I'm just looking like, yo, literally, they can cover the whole 757 with the matter of this team of photographers, which 10, 15 years ago, like, wasn't even thought of.
Yeah.
Like, Friday Night Lights, you know, was like, you look forward to the helicopter coming to your game.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like, they only could get to so many games within a night. You prayed they stopped by, you know, Todd Stadium or Darling to catch your game. But other than that,
For the
that was
sky
it.
view.
Yeah, the sky, like, that was it. Like, that was it. And now it's like, press a button and it's like, it's out there.
It's out
Like,
there.
And like, you could do it again. And it's like no limit to it. So like the resources and the exposure today is second to none. And ultimately that can come with some good and some bad, but you know, people that use it for the best, for, you know, pushing the culture forward to get these kids exposure, I mean, I love to see it, you know. The former QB inside of me is jealous, but I love to see this generation, you know, benefiting from having so much exposure.
Absolutely.
So I love to see it.
That's how I started off me as a hobby. I was just shooting the game. I started going to Hampton. I went to Hampton as well, and I was just shooting. Like, you know, I'll see a guy in number 57, my number, stuff like that, and just start pointing the camera at him. And you know, after a while, yes, it was like that thing of like, oh, why wasn't this going on when I was playing? And then you quickly snap out of it. Like, hold on, man, like, this kid gets this opportunity right now, and I have the means, and I'm able to do it. So let's make it happen. And so for me, I started to get an enjoyment of really just living it through them. I just live it through them, and it's kind of fun to do it like that. And whether it's team to team, 757 to 804, or just Virginia versus everybody, we just live it through them, and I started to really love the aspect of that. So, I mean, now, fast forward, going from a hobby is more passion than ever, and it just continues to grow. You know, we didn't start out as a recruiting agency or just even focusing on recruiting, even though we knew that what we were doing was going to push that aspect. It started out as a hobby. My partner shared with me early on when he brought it to me as an idea. He started as a post-COVID type of endeavor, and he went to his first Darling game since then, and the stadium was empty. The energy wasn't there. And it wasn't what we were used to.
Oh, gosh, that's something.
So
I can tell you what a Hampton Phoebus game was 10 years ago, and what it is today is sad.
Yeah, absolutely. I just saw a picture from a Kickintan game, and, you know, it just didn't seem like at least every kid right on that field had a supporter of any sort. It's baffling to see, but nonetheless, I believe, like, if somebody gets ahead of it, if we can start to, you know, gather around this thing, it's not something that we have to look down upon, but just build it right back up right now, and, you know, we won't feel the absence of it. You know what I'm saying? We can turn it around right now.
What Tommy said about all the media that kids get exposure by now, there's one of the downsides is there's so many media options. People don't feel compelled to go to a Friday night high school football
Took the
game.
words right out of my mouth.
I will say.
It's a gift and a curse.
I will say.
So much exposure. Back in the day, you had to go to the game to see
what's going on.
The talent. Now it's like, let me just open my phone. I can scroll or hit one of you guys' pages, and I can get caught up in a matter of minutes. So it's like, do we ever get back to those Hampton Phoebus packed stadiums? If you're not there early, you're not getting in.
Yeah.
I remember not getting to a Hampton Phoebus game, and I was so upset. Called my pops. And I'm like, Dad, what can you do? And he was like, I'm not there. And I'm like, man, I'm trying to get in. Tyrod was playing. Like, I got all my homies on both sides. I'm like, come on, Dad. You got to know somebody.
Yeah.
Like, get me in. And luckily, somebody had saw me, security or somebody, from my dad being in the school system for so long, and I ended up getting into the game, and I had to sit in the aisle of the stands.
Oh, yeah.
Not the stands, the aisle.
That's how bad
Those
it
are
used
the
to be.
good old days.
Yes,
Yeah.
like your city, like their seats are done. You got to sit in the aisle. And I'm like, yo, like that's nostalgic to think back. And I'm just like, I look at the stands like you said, and it's 10, 20, 15. Like, I'm like, what is going on? But then again, all this great exposure is kind of like, and games are being streamed now.
Yeah.
Like you
Oh,
can
yes.
you can stay in the
Yes.
bed and, you know, watch a big game right here on your phone, which also is great because at the end of the day, talent is being displayed. But as far as just that true organic show up and support, you know, we're kind of, you know, getting away from those days that a packed stadium, unless it's just two big teams.
For sure.
But back in the day, the bottom teams in the district could still bring a good crowd, you know? I played at Gloucester, so I was a part of a lot of those low-tier games, but I'm looking around, like, at Gloucester, like, our side would be packed.
Yeah.
Sure.
In the end, I'm like, yo, they show up, they showing up.
Oh, it's a community.
It's
And
a community.
parents
it's a,
would be
yeah,
involved,
it's a
and
community
foreign
thing.
players would be involved, and there's just so. I remember graduating from college and couldn't wait to go back to high school football games after being out
Yeah.
of town for so many years.
Yeah.
I remember when we had a bye week, all I could think about was just going back to a high school. Got my sweatsuit on.
Come on.
Like, I'm going
Yeah.
back to the game. Like, I can't wait. And
And I
now,
don't think people do that anymore.
Well,
thing of
I
the
see it a
past.
little bit. You know, you see it on and off across the water. I see it in Norfolk. I see it in a lot of different places. On our side, PD area. I mean, I would like to see them come back a lot more often. And then again, you know, it's just about, you know, everybody getting that opportunity and going.
Yeah.
And it's all about, you know, starting to make it the new norm or
Sacrifice 3
reintroducing
hours out of your Friday night.
the norm to
and
come
support
back.
the community.
Come back. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And so when we talk about legacies and you know how that's played a role in shaping the media today, what kind of things do you see that are being utilized today? I guess that you you would find yourself using pretty often back then, and now you're seeing it kind of like upgrade a little bit. You kind of see it still used. Is there anything that you see that's being used right now that Recruit757
Tommy, you want to
utilized?
jump on that first?
that's a good question. A couple things ran through my mind. You know, even with all the nuances of the game, you know, it's still football.
Absolutely.
You know, it's still played between the lines. You know, with me even having a coaching background and just the teaching of the game has advanced, but a lot of that comes back to just the basic fundamentals of football. But there are teams now that, you know, have sideline film capabilities, which I think is amazing. I mean, first time I saw that was like Monday Night Football to me. I'm like, yo, high school kids are surrounded by a TV watching the previous drive.
And I'm sure you know you can buy a Huddle subscription that will tell you your opponent's tendencies.
So
and
I
even tell you your own tendencies.
So I just
Really?
found out
Yeah.
about that. I forgot. It's called Huddle something. But
it's a premium whatever, but you can buy it, and it actually does the film study for you.
Actually, I'm not even gonna say names, but I still substitute teach.
Yeah.
So I was teaching at a school, talking to the defensive coordinator, and he was telling me that a big rival of his he didn't know this was available. And he was like, yo, I just found out that been using this Huddles, and it's not illegal or anything, you know, but
It's analysis.
Yes, it deep dives into your tendencies and all this stuff. He was like, yo, I just figured out they had that. I'm about to get it too so I can even the playing field. And I'm just like, yo, now you can go so deep that you can almost predict people's play calls, tendencies.
Oh,
or what
we're
they're
in
gonna
this
do.
alignment. They're
Yep,
going to do this.
That's what they're going to do.
90% of the time or whatever.
And, you know, with the growth of AI, you know, it's unreal the capabilities of the benefits and the help assistance you can get even when it comes to the game of football now. Like when you tell me, like, I'm just going to input everything you do, and it's pretty much going to give me a game plan on everything when you, like, it's not cheating, but it's like, yo, that's crazy. Like, know what I mean? So just seeing those nuances of
But you
knowing-
still have to teach it.
You do.
You still have to coach it,
you still
and
have
the
to
kids
coach
still
it.
have to execute it.
Because I can tell you X, Y, Z, it don't mean nothing if they can't line it up and execute it. You know what I mean? So at the
That's
end
true.
of the day, and that goes back to just the fundamentals of
Yeah.
football. Like, I can have all the data in the world, but I need Drew Crosby to line up in the right position, assignment, and execute this play. So all
And
in
that's
all,
the beautiful thing about the game. The thing I love about it is discipline. First and foremost, discipline. Everybody has a role, and you have to know what your role is on every play.
Yep.
And do your part.
Do
and
your
it's
part.
teamwork. So I mean, there's so many things that are life lessons in football, and taking this whole football recruitment angle and building on high school kids. You're about to be an adult. So let's talk for a minute about what adulthood looks like. And especially sitting down with mom and dad in addition to the kid and say, in just a few years, he's going to be out of your house. He's going to be on his own. You're going to be on your own. What are you going to do? Do you know what you're walking into? And that's not to scare anybody.
You're right.
But
It's a scary question, but it's not
that's
scary.
question.
part
It's
of
a real
life.
question.
And being a high school football player, if you've got your head on straight, can do so many good things for you in terms of discipline, in terms of teamwork, in terms of leadership. there are a lot of life lessons to learn from the game and a lot of life lessons to learn from football recruitment.
Absolutely.
And you take all that and make yourself a better person and become a great adult. You can become a great adult that way.
Absolutely.
And that's something I've told plenty of kids and parents. You talked about what coaches are looking for. Every coach would love to have every one of his players be a capable leader.
Yep.
So that means not only being a good athlete, we're going to take that for granted. I preach the three-legged stool. Your athletics, your academics, and your character. And without one of those, you're not going to be successful. The two-legged stool is not going to stand. So you've got to be able to do it athletically, but academically, if you can't be a college student, you're not going to play college football. That still applies, even though standards have been lessened and the SAT may or may not be in play and all these other things. If you can't hack it as a college football player, you're not going to be on the football team for long. But the third thing is really that character aspect, and every college coach would love to have somebody that's a true leader in the locker room, a true leader on the campus. That makes a great representation for the university.
Absolutely.
And how much does a college football coach make? Let's just say several $1 million. They're not going to lose their several $1 million contract over somebody being a knucklehead in the locker room or on campus or out in the community. If you can get yourself in line to be a great character person, learn how to lead, and be an athlete and a student, that's the total package.
There we go.
And that's what every college coach would want.
Every leader is or wants a great follower.
So there's those great life lessons for young men becoming adults, becoming productive adults.
To follow up on you, Andy, you know, I'm known for sitting on my chest, but once upon a time I spent 7 years on the collegiate level, 2 in the NFL, and everything you're saying is you hitting the nail on the head. And I've been at all levels. You know, I played at Old Dominion, but then I got into coaching. I was at the University of Virginia, interned with the Pittsburgh Steelers, went down to the University of Miami, came back to Christopher Newport, Virginia Tech, and the Saints. And everything you're saying is like, when we close those doors, those are the things we're looking at. Those are the things we're focusing on. And I feel like a lot of times, you know, our kids and parents are uneducated, and they create their own narratives of what they think it takes to get there or what's important and what's not. But it's really those 3 things. Like, it's simple and plain. Like, don't overthink it. Those 3. A 2-legged stool will not stand. I like that. I'm gonna steal that.
That was a good
I'm
one.
like, yo, it will not stand. So you hit the nail on the head with that, Andy.
Thanks.
Absolutely. And so, in the last one, when I talk about the impacts on the athletes, how do we see social media influencing the way athletes are scouted and promoted? And I know we touched on this a little bit, but
there's so much that can be said
absolutely.
there. And there's so much that kids need to learn constantly. I thought 5 years ago that kids would have had it eventually figured out. It's gotten worse instead of getting better. In terms of kids knowing how to behave, in terms of not posting dumb things, sharing dumb things, putting yourself in a situation. Shoot, the beautiful thing, I can go back in my day in college. None of my college life is out there anywhere. Not that I did anything crazy,
Right.
but if I did anything crazy, there's no evidence.
Gotcha. Time
Now,
has changed.
kids, even in elementary school, have social media, which I don't know that they should.
Yeah.
But let's say middle school have social media. Anything you do that's going to reflect poorly on yourself is going to come back and bite you. Somebody will find it, and as you mentioned about being behind closed doors and looking at who these kids are, if you demonstrate that you're a knucklehead on social media, even if it was 5 years ago, there's going to be some consequences.
Absolutely.
You know how many times in meetings we pulled up a kid's Twitter or Instagram, and we see middle fingers or guns or smoking weed, like,
Nudity.
like these coaches are paying attention.
Absolutely.
And these kids don't think twice before they hit send. And that's one thing that I felt like I was in the era of social media really starting to explode. My coaches really, think twice before y'all hit post, hit send, because once it's out there, it's gone. Can't do nothing about it. Now you're trying to explain yourself. I was 17 at the time. Like, they're not trying to hear none of that. If I'm about to invest thousands of dollars, especially with the NIL and all this stuff, this is a business now. You're about to represent.
Even more so than it ever was.
Yes, it was a business
it
then.
definitely is.
It is you're about to represent us as a whole, this entity, this university, this logo. And it's like, we're not about to spend anything on a knucklehead. Like, just like it's a million of yous out there.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what people, I think they lose. Like, it's kids everywhere that want to go.
But my kid's special.
Yeah, it's different. And it's
Mom and Dad will tell you that.
I'm like, for these 2 scholarships we have, literally every kid in America wants it.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
for sure.
Yeah, like, what makes you different?
Slim
I can find
pickings.
a kid. Yeah, I can find a kid that can listen. I can find a kid that like.
Yeah, I don't have to go through
But
this.
at the end of the day, I think even when it comes to platforms like we have, you know, being able to be, and it needs to be more just education-wise to show like, yo, if you do this, it has consequences.
Absolutely.
Like, kids DM me all the time for city on my chest this, city on my chest that, and I click on their page and I see all types of stuff. And I'm like, does this represent my brand? Absolutely not. There's no way I'm about to link with you when you're up here doing illegal activities. That's not what city on my chest, and that's the same thing with colleges. Like, it's just a disconnect. So all in all, man, I hope kids start to get it, but, you know, they post anything now.
Yeah.
They say anything because they think that's normal. Like, this is what the way of life is, and it's
This
not.
is what my friends do.
Yes.
Just because your friends do it doesn't mean it's acceptable.
And that's not
And
really
it's certainly
not the
not
same-
acceptable as an adult. And that's the
Absolutely.
thing we got to keep in mind with these kids that are looking at recruited. We're talking about going into adulthood. You think you have expectations on you now, just wait. Wait till college, and then wait until
yeah.
after college when there's real consequences. Instead of losing a scholarship, you lose a job.
Yep.
It's true.
That's
to
life.
jail.
Or go to jail.
So when
That's
we
true.
talk about it, we talk about adults, right? Let me throw you guys a curveball real quick. You guys talked about the impact that it's making in for scouting for kids and the athletes. But like I said, we talked about it earlier. There's another person in this process that is very more, if not more important, they're equally as important, and that's the parent. So when we talk about social media, that's more. Hey, like I remember when my mom was on Facebook, my uncles and aunts was on Facebook. They probably just knew how to do the basics of it. They didn't know nothing about no Instagram, anything like that. And I have an older, family, but at the same time now, we got parents, grandparents now that are on Instagram, Facebook, and they are more vocal. They are learning how to. So what does that look like for these parents? Is that important as
I'll
well
use
for
one
them?
saying: the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yep.
So
very
telling
true.
mom and dad, the college coaches are not only looking at your son, they're looking at you.
There we go.
And if
Parents can mess up scholarships too.
There we go.
Parents can lose scholarships for kids. The kid was okay. That dad, that mom, oh no.
If
Not
that's the
doing it.
influence they have in their life?
No, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. I'm good. We're good. So I mean,
Absolutely. Do you feel like that's touched on enough, or is it something that we should?
It always needs to be. It does need to be reinforced. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
it does, but it's almost. Some people are so stuck in their ways, you can't tell them anything. They don't really. They've never experienced going to the next level or what it takes. So, hey, we're gonna do what we do. And the kid, like you said, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Watching or repeating all the actions of the parents. And I'm like, yo, I know that's what you come from. And shout out to the kids who can separate.
Yeah.
Who can
They're
say
out there.
yeah, they are out there. That kids come from a rough life and you'll never know because he tries to leave it all at home or not let it be shown that this is where I come from. And I'm not saying you can't be proud of where you're coming from, but this is a business at the end of the day. The game is for you. Games are for youth league.
Yeah.
This is a business now.
Yes.
A
yes.
big business with a lot of money that comes
Yeah,
along
yeah,
with
oh.
it. How much college coaches get paid again?
Millions.
Big M's. Like,
Big.
big M's. Assistants, hundreds of thousands. Like, they're not just handing these jobs out. These coaches are trying to protect their livelihood.
They have a career at
Absolutely.
stake.
Yes, feed their family. Like, pay big.
Can't
like,
forget it.
Yeah,
Can't
like,
forget that.
man,
Can't forget
I'm not
that.
about to risk it on you. But I just hope we keep educating.
Absolutely.
Platforms keep providing that knowledge to let you know, like, one thing a coach always used to say is just like that, everything can be gone. And that stuck with me forever. That was college. He was like, he'll come in the team meeting, snap his fingers. Man, what does that mean? Just like that, opportunity can be gone. And it might not ever come back.
Right.
So,
And there can be many reasons that happens.
yep,
I mean, we can talk about career-ending injury.
yep.
We can talk about drunk driving mistake. You kill somebody. I mean, life is heavy.
Yes.
Life has a lot of heavy consequences. And sometimes you did nothing to deserve what happened to you.
Absolutely. Life isn't fair.
Also,
Life is not fair.
it's a lot of
So
examples
even
of
when
that.
it comes down to putting yourself around certain situations, I won't at the party acting crazy, but you were at the party. When they ask who were there, it's easy to say, oh, Drew Crosby, the superstar, he was in there that night.
Yep.
Something happened to that girl, or a fight broke out, or a gun was
They
found.
said somebody was raped.
Yep. Your name is the first name they come. Well, who was there? Well, you know,
It's
Drew
a
was
touchy-
in. Like, yeah, like
Touchy
just like
situation.
And all it takes is a media outlet that's excited to get a headline,
Run
and
with
they
the
go,
narrative.
There we go.
"Yep, there it goes."
'Cause
It
once
didn't
it-
happen,
once-
but somebody reported that Drew was at a college party where a girl got raped, and now the whole football program's under investigation. That's the headline.
And whether you're innocent or not, the damage has been done.
Yeah.
National news, investigation, you'll never get that off your name. Even when found innocent.
Innocent.
Yes.
Look at
yes.
Duke. Look at, gosh, what was it? The lacrosse teams, one of the
Yep.
secondary
I remember
men's
that, yep.
teams, that a woman decided she was going to make a lot of money suing Duke by saying she had sexual relationship inappropriately with a bunch of the guys on the lacrosse team or whatever it was. They all lost their scholarships. The program was in shambles. It turned out she was lying. But it had to go months into years to
Yep.
find that out.
Wow.
As an athlete, you're guilty until proven innocent. And even when you're proven innocent, your name has been drugged through the mud for so long. People want to stay away from you.
Yep.
Brands want to disconnect with you. Like, hey man, I know it might not be true, but until we figure it out, Drew, we're gonna fall back some.
Yeah.
We're gonna cut our partnership with you.
So as Tommy mentioned, as an athlete, the best thing that young people can do is try to keep themselves out of any possible situation where something like that can happen.
Absolutely. That's the bottom
Just
line.
don't take those risks.
And I used to have friends tell me like, yo, why you always serious, or why you need to ease up some. Like, I was conscious of these things. Like, I was not playing with my future. Like, humbly speaking, I feel like it was a reason why I got to where I got, because I prepared, you know what I mean? I noticed when I was in situations that I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be here right now. Let's get out of here before it goes left or goes right.
Yeah.
You got to be conscious of those things. And I'm not saying you can't enjoy life and be a young man and have fun.
That's
but you're-
discernment.
Yes.
That's what it is. You got to be able to discern.
Like I
What's,
told,
what's the potential here?
I'm an overthinker, and I think it always helped me out being young. Me personally, like I always said, I'm from the area. I've done my little stupid things when I was young and things like that. But like I always told myself, and I think that's what's changed so much in today's world, is I had somebody at home to be scared of. You know what I mean? And so for me, and the difference between my friends and I is I always knew when to stop. That was it. I knew when to stop. Yeah. And usually when I made that decision, it was well ahead of the time of us going into whatever it is that we were, going to get in trouble for. So that was it. And before I move on to collaboration and improvement, things like that, I wanted to talk about rankings really quick, right? And not our current rankings or anything like that, but just so the people that haven't heard from Andy Hilton, hasn't seen a ranking or anything like that from you in a while, what did it take? What went into Andy Hilton putting his rankings together for Recruit757? What were the things that you looked at? Would you say it was more political? Was it more?
Well, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny, that political accusation. I have nothing to gain by ranking one kid over another. Not to mention, I don't have any interest in where they go. I want them to go, as I said, wherever their best fit is and where they can become a great adult.
Preach. Okay.
That being said, when I was running scouting service, because again, shooting film and game film evolved into scouting service, where I had several dozen colleges that recruited here that paid me, wasn't big bucks, but paid a subscription, and I was NCAA certified, so I had to have an NCAA structured pricing system on, you want this is what you pay, and everybody pays the same thing. So everybody from Clemson, Virginia Tech, UVA, on, ACC schools and that level, down to the CAA at the time, and Old Dominion continued on for many, many years, all the way up till I stopped it. Norfolk State, Hampton, William & Mary, Richmond, Chowan, Christopher Newport, we can go on and on. I had to know everybody all the time, because I had college coaches calling me, hey, tell me about that running back at Hampton. What's his home life like? What's this, that, and the other? So not only did I was the resource, not just like rivals to say, oh, the kid's a 4-star, 5-star, which I don't agree with that system at all, but know where he stood on his team, where he stood in the district, where he stood in the region, and in my opinion, where he compared statewide, because I got to the point for the last 5-6 years of it doing the entire state. So I traveled a lot more, but got to really know talent, and it's about knowing what a good running back is, but also what is a good running back recruit, as an example. So I'm not looking at the kid who who's just has speed or just has a great offensive line and can hit the hole. I can tell you about quarterbacks that could throw for 5,000 yards in a season, but their offense was structured to be that way, and the kid couldn't threw a football like a dart. That was his throwing motion. That's not going to fly in college.
Absolutely.
That kid, as much as his numbers look great,
Yeah.
he's a nothing as far as college recruitment goes in terms of ranking.
That's the way to look at it.
So there's a whole lot that goes into it, but I had to be on top of it all the time, including knowing statewide who was who, because I'd constantly get phone calls or just had to know. That's personal pride too, is knowing if anybody ever asks me about anybody, I need to know who they are.
Absolutely, I agree. That's the same way I feel now. And so I'm sorry.
So going back to that question of ranking,
Yeah.
but it really wasn't. It wasn't hard to put a ranking together because I already knew it.
Absolutely.
So, and granted, it's my opinion, and I put it. This is Recruit757's all 757 team, first team, second team, third team, because I wanted to acknowledge as many kids as possible. And there was the occasional parent that would say, "Oh, it's politics. My kid's not second team. My kid should have been on first team." And what a long story short, an instance like that, I would tell the parent, "You may have been to every one of your son's games, and I appreciate your opinion on your kid, but I've seen every program in the whole region throughout the course of this season. I've seen every running back, and as an example, I've seen every kid at the position. I'm comfortable with where I have your kid sitting, not to mention this particular kid I'm thinking of already had a Division I commitment done. My ranking of your kid is not going to change where he's going, what he's doing.
I've seen it.
Go on, be proud that your son has a Division I scholarship and is going off to college, and he's a fantastic kid and a fantastic athlete. Be proud of him."
Absolutely. And
Done.
not looking for you to touch on any, particular brand or company, anything like that. But I heard you talk about the star system, right? And now I'm not sure if y'all were going on off of stars at that time,
Yeah,
or
it was a
if it was a
3-star.
big thing. 3-star?
Thought I should have been higher. But
Yeah. So
But it's been around for a long time.
It's my opinion.
How do you guys see that star system?
Go ahead. You want to jump on that first?
Yeah, I mean, everything is subjective to who's making the decisions. One thing that Coach Prime said that went viral, like, if I want to make a kid a 5-star, I can right now by picking up the phone.
He's right.
So the politics behind that and having the power to be like, hey, I like this kid, let's make it happen. Boom. Like, so it's kind of
When he was at Jackson State, would it have the same effect?
no.
And that's my opinion on rankings, is that the kids are ranked based on who's offering them,
Yeah.
not based on their talent. So at worst, for the most part, a school like Virginia Tech is going to have their lowest ranked kids are 3-stars, because probably they're recruiting against Old Dominion and East Carolina and Marshall and whatever. You name an assortment of Division I schools, but Alabama's not on there, Clemson's not on there, Georgia's not on there, whatever. If those schools are on there, Virginia Tech's recruiting, they land him, he's a 4 or 5-star.
You're right.
That's how the recruiting works. It's backwards.
Yep.
It's not the kid is good, therefore he gets the star. It's the colleges are recruiting him, therefore he gets a star.
So do you feel like, would you say that it's a direct representation of the kid in their recruitment, or do you feel like, are you saying like
It's a
most of them
tool.
could be misled?
It's a tool to get college football fans excited about their own program.
Absolutely.
So college football fans can argue, we had the best recruiting class because we had X number of 5-stars and X number of 4-stars, and it doesn't matter. And there's one thing, biggest thing to keep in mind, once you hit that college football field, those stars, what you
out
did
the
in high
window.
school
Yeah, it does not
meant
matter.
nothing. The stars you have mean nothing. You got to prove yourself all over again, especially because you think you may have been the best player at your high school. Well, everybody on that team was the best player at their high school. So now what are you going to do?
You're right.
You start all over.
Jumping in the pool of views.
Here goes some inside scoop. Like I said, from Virginia Tech, Miami, UVA, I've seen and learned a lot. You ready for this, Drew?
Yeah.
There are offers that come from programs just because another school offered. If you are in direct competition and that you feel like, oh, let's just take Virginia Tech, in-state schools. You know what I mean? Say Virginia Tech offers a kid, right?
Right.
UVA is in direct competition of Virginia Tech and trying to keep up with the best kids around. And it's almost like, oh, they found somebody we didn't know about and he's worthy. coach, pick up the phone, offer a kid.
And they may have no chance of landing the kid.
No chance
It's
of
just
landing
for
them.
appearances.
Yes.
Just for appearances, and just you're just trying to get a dog in the fight sometimes.
Sometimes.
So, for example, coach, your recruiting coordinator comes in and says, "Hey, this school just offered Drew Crosby. If your height, weight, speed looks the part, it could be a phone call right now to Hampton High School to call Mike Smith to say, hey, we want to offer Drew Crosby. Don't really know much about you,
Right.
but at the same time, you getting a call saying you got a scholarship. You ready for this? If you can't sign right here on the line saying you want to accept that letter of intent, that scholarship technically, I hate to say it, it's not really a scholarship. And recruiting is getting so crazy. I used to sit in a staff meeting, and the head coach would have to ask the position coach, do we have to offer Drew just to recruit Drew? Let me say that again. Do we have to offer Drew just to recruit Drew? You're going to say, why is that? Drew already has 10 offers, right?
Right.
So now Drew's saying, I'm not coming to camps no more. I got all these offers. So now I'm only talking to schools that offered me. So now before I even know if I really want you, in order to recruit you, I have to pick up the phone to say, hey, Drew, you got a scholarship.
Yes.
And now
That's
you
true.
posting and all the blogs are going crazy that, he just got.
And their fan base is
going crazy. Oh,
we got a
offered-
shot at
we got a
so-and-so.
shot. And it really is like, you don't. Like, and a lot of times, if you really want, I can go on for days about this. Schools may play the we offered you first game because we know you're going to blow up.
There's all sorts of angles.
I went on a recruiting visit with a young man that was a big time recruit, and at the time he didn't have no big time offers, but he had all the intangibles. Young kid going. Coach said, and I knew the position coach, and he said, "Yo, we're gonna offer you, and you know we about to blow you up." You may say, "What does that mean?" The second that the press sees we offered you, schools are about to be coming in left and right.
I've seen it.
So he kind of saying like, don't forget about us.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah,
kind of,
that's true.
we the ones that
Pioneered
really,
this thing
know what I
right
mean,
here.
blew
Yeah.
you up. Man, it's a business, it's a game, man. And all I can do
Wow.
is just, I can't blame what is it, don't hate the player, hate the game. So I'm not mad at the kids. I'm not mad at anybody, but a lot of people are just uneducated to how this whole rankings and offers and stars go. And so many parents and kids are so desperate or hungry for it, by any means necessary, they chasing camps or wherever they got to go. And it's like a lot of times they can get off track from what really matters or how to go about, putting yourself in a better position.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then we can get into NIL and transfer portal and how that's changed recruiting.
Well,
I mean, let me just start with transfer portal.
It's the wild, wild west.
First of all, it's a wild, wild west. Secondly, you're seeing fewer high school kids get offers and get scholarships because colleges are always going to leave room for the transfer portal.
Absolutely.
So how many kids can I expect to transfer in? I need to make sure I have scholarships to get those guys.
absolutely.
So you're seeing fewer high school kids. Now, we may see that change, too, because the NCAA just increased the number of scholarships that all athletic programs can offer. And I think the number for football is 105.
Okay.
So
What's
that
also-
kind of opens it up, but it also opens you up to the old school thing of, in Tennessee, going back a couple of decades, their head coach was accused of hoarding players because there were no limits on scholarships. Everybody wanted to play, let's say for Tennessee, all the kids go there and sit the bench. So those kids, if there's 105 scholarships available to football program now, then you also need to make the determination, how serious are they about giving me playing time if I earn it or when I earn it? So with every solution, there's a new problem.
Yep.
And that leads right into NIL for me.
Yeah.
I worked a ton of years before NIL came around, and I wound it down just about the time NIL hit. And I predicted it years before NIL hit that it's going to create a system of haves and have-nots. And your haves are the ones that have big money donors that can throw money around, and the have-nots are the smaller schools that just don't have the budget to throw at kids, and then it's motivating kids, not everybody, but a lot of athletes, for the wrong reasons.
Yep.
Because I worked it for all of my time was go to college where you can get a great education, leverage that education into a career after football. NFL may come. If NFL comes, great. But understand an NFL career is short, and even if you're Bruce Smith and have an 18-year career, you're still going to want to do something after NFL.
Absolutely.
So you may as well get an education in something that you like and something you think you might do after college. All of that pretty much is blown out the window because you have kids chasing money way too early.
Yeah, definitely. Chasing money instead of like the hunger that they got inside. And I'm sure I can attest, just like Tommy being former athletes and starting a business, that hunger, the things, the qualities that we learned from the game allowed us to do so many more things as we've created these platforms and been able to help so many other people do the same. I think, like you said earlier, you just learn so much playing this game and being around it. So I agree with that, although I am definitely for the opportunities for NILs and things like that.
I understand the spirit of it and the want to get. I mean, these colleges make a ton of money off of college football, so it is fair.
And those coaches make a ton of money.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
is it fair for the athletes paid nothing? No.
No.
But is the system the way it is now
Stable.
good, stable? No.
There could be some
There's a
questions
whole lot
on
of
that.
problems, and I'm not claiming to have the answers
Right.
for how to make it the best, the perfect, ideal situation. But the way it is not the right answer.
I got some guys that work, at schools in the NIL department, and they're completely honest. Like I said, they call it the Wild Wild West because right now it's not a lot of regulations, and it's kind of like we had to do something, so we passed this rule, but we're still trying to really figure it out.
The NCAA is not good about running anything. I hate to say it. And I had to be NCAA certified for stuff.
Yeah.
And the hoops I had to jump through were just, for the most part, unreasonable.
I know it. And those are a lot
It was
of
to
things.
ensure that somebody wasn't, and as you saw examples of 10 years ago, Oregon paying a dude in Florida or Texas or wherever $1 million to deliver a kid. Because they wanted that kid so bad, if that his handler could deliver the kid, then he gets paid.
That's
Well,
new news to me. Okay.
That's against NCAA. That's why they regulated, because what he did was, he said, I'm a scouting service. They paid me for scouting. Okay, well, the dude didn't scout anybody else and wasn't under contract for anybody else, but he was
Just
a
that
scouting
one kid.
service.
That one kid.
I hear stories like that all the time, that these kids have relationships with certain people in their community, and you hear that, like, or in recruiting, we'll be like, who do we need to talk to get to the kid?
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it's the
it's
parents.
not mom and dad.
Sometimes it's, JoJo from around the way.
It's his rec league coach.
Rec league coach.
Or uncle so-and-so.
That been funding and helping them out, that talks up for them. Like, they're the decision maker. And now you got all these schools kind of going after that guy because they know to land Drew, we got to get with Uncle JoJo over here because he's the decision maker. He's the one that's been, in his ear, who's going to listen to.
Yep.
So, and these schools will make deals with him to try to, like you say, land these kids. Like, we're not playing fair. We want you. So what you need? 50, 100.
That stuff was going on for a long time before NIL ever existed. So it's just a way to try to tamp that down, but it's not under control.
Definitely not under control. Well, I mean, I see that it would take like a village or at least a team of individuals that are, I guess, moving in that direction. We don't talk about it every day. It's not being pinpointed every day. So that goes on to building the numbers. I'm more so about multiplying my people, more multiplying that army instead of multiplying my efforts if I don't have to, in a sense. I always will if I have to, but if I can get some people bought into the same mission of understanding and where we are and we can move forward like that, that's kind of how we've honestly built Sportsplug here today. Being, you were like, what, you said about 8 to 10? We're about like 80 to 90 now in this time frame. And it's
in terms of writers and photographers
and things
it was
like
a little
that.
bit by not short of 20.
20.
And everything
Right.
all involved with different roles, but everybody had a role as a writer or videographer.
Gathering
photography,
everybody
what have you.
just behind the same mission of getting these kids seen, of course, learning your lens. I mean, honestly, like we went from recruiting and merch and all these things like that. Now we're moving towards internships because not only do we have, content creators that are older than 60 years old, but now we have our youngest at 13, from graphic designers to journalists to content creators and things like that. So it's
And you're
it's
gonna
been
have
great.
some more wins that way. I had a kid. I say kid. He's now in the NFL in the front office with the Jaguars. But he was at Norfolk State and had to have a grad school. He came to Norfolk State in grad school, had to have an internship.
Wow.
I was his internship, and the Jaguars called me. Hey, how was so-and-so to work with? He got the job. And now he's in the NFL, working in the front
Wow.
office. So you can go, you can offer those kind of opportunities to people who are hungry enough to chase it.
Absolutely.
So when we talk about our platforms and people like us, right, that are sitting in these positions where people are watching or our voices are being heard more so than others, what type of things would you say as Andy Hilton or Recruit757 that we could, what type of strategies do you think we can utilize to better collaborate and push more of these efforts as, Sportsplug is growing and you still have a passion for seeing these things go a certain way? Right, which type of ways do you feel like collaboration of efforts between entities and people in the community can better help this situation?
Well, what made Recruit757 work, obviously revenue has to come into standpoint.
There we
That's
go.
what revenue was what killed Recruit757, or at least put us on hiatus, because COVID hit and these college football programs, a lot of them didn't have seasons. High school didn't play, and not to mention we did camps. And you couldn't have camps because of COVID. You couldn't get people together. You had to be no more than 6 people and maintain 6 feet of distance between.
Yeah.
You can't have a football camp with people wearing masks and keeping 6 feet apart. It just can't happen. And sponsorships. So I had college scouting service revenue. I had camp event revenue, and I had advertisers. And advertising partnerships were a big part, but putting all 3 of those together was really what made it happen. Made me, because I've got a family, I've got a mortgage to pay. I had a kid in college at the time, or actually 2 kids in college through the course of Recruit757. Bills have to be paid, and as long as I was doing each one of those things and working 80, 90, 100 hours a week, every week, 52 weeks a year,
It's the grind.
then it got done. But as soon as it couldn't get done that way, there was no revenue to keep doing it, and that's why about 9 months after paying people to work, paying to operate the business, not making revenue, it just had to stop. But that's what I would say in terms of answering your question in terms of collaborations, not so much creative collaborations, but collaborations with the business community
There we go.
and get revenue generated so you can go for the long term and have people like, whether it's sitting on my chest or whether it's, I had Buffalo Wild Wings, I had One Life Fitness. I had a lot of folks, but again, going back to those businesses, when COVID hit, Buffalo Wild Wings closed for 3 months.
For sure.
The gyms were closed for 6 months.
For sure.
And those businesses didn't have a need for spending marketing money or advertising money when they couldn't open their business. So it was revenue shut, revenue shut, revenue shut, no money. That was the downside of, that was COVID hurting Recruit757. All of that being said, the more you can generate revenue, figure out a way to pay the people that are working for you. And you don't have to pay them. I know you've got a lot of, like I did, a lot of volunteers, a lot of people that were paid a little amount of money, just enough to make it worth their trouble because they really had a passion for it. The more you can grow the business and really make it a business instead of just a passion, the stronger the company, stronger you're going to be, and the more longevity you're likely to have.
That's getting towards the end of our conversation, and so right now I want to put it in the perspective that Recruit757 is like an older brother of Sportsplug 757 in a sense, which it is, by the way. Is there, like, being that you're not doing this day to day right now, day in, day out with Recruit757, is there things that's come to your mind while watching us or while watching sports evolve over the time that you would like to see us touch more bases on or pay more attention to, or anything that you would like to see brought to fruition in a sense?
I wouldn't give you a specific thing to do because, first of all, it's your business, you do what you want to do. But the second thing is make a determination on what your passion is, where's your passion lie, and what's going to make you money, and try to find where they overlap. Because in order to be a business, you're going to have to make money. But I was always key about what are people going to think. This is the way I thought. What are people going to think if I do this? Are they going to think it's a money grab, or are they cool with it? Because I never wanted to come across as, oh, well, he's just doing it to get our money.
Yeah.
Because believe me, it wasn't about that. I wasn't making a fortune doing it. I was making enough to pay my bills, but the important thing to me was I was feeding my passion, which was helping kids. So I had to do everything I could to make events. I wanted to make events happen where I could leverage maybe a partnership, a marketing partnership, somebody that would sponsor Buffalo Wild Wings Player of the Week. They were a year-round sponsor. But I did Player of the Week throughout the entire season and through the playoffs. The parents loved it. The kids loved it. It drove the kids to compete. The fans loved it. The client, Buffalo Wild Wings, certainly loved it because it kept their name out there. And the argument to them I made, without going into the amount of money that they spent, was You have, at the time, it was 11 locations. How much business do I need to bring in on a monthly basis to each location for it to pay for itself? And that number was really small, realistically. They were not taking a big risk by supporting Recruit757, but they loved supporting Recruit757 and local athletics because of what we were able to build it into and what it meant to the community, and everybody tied in. So that's where it's a win, 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 win all across the board.
Absolutely.
It wasn't Andy makes money and somebody gets shortchanged. So there's a balance between if you do everything, it's all your passion, but you can't make money, you're not going to last.
Absolutely.
If you do chase the money, people aren't going to see you as legit. You got to do both.
For sure.
And I'm sure, Tommy, you've got some input
Yeah,
because you've struggled
absolutely.
with some of the same things, I'm sure.
Absolutely, I agree. I started off this being a passion, and it was just give, 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 give. And then you realize you're looking at the books, it's like, whoa, I don't have income coming in. And in order to sustain a business, you have to generate, income. So I had to learn that I can't give like I want to because it doesn't make sense for the overall operation to be, I won't be here anymore.
Correct.
So learning that was big because in my heart, I'm just trying to help kids. You want some gear? Here, take some gear.
The analogy that I've heard about that really makes sense to me is when you're in an airplane and there's an emergency, the mask dropped from the ceiling. What do they tell you to do when the mask drops? Put yours on first before you put your child's on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you can't help your child if you're passed out.
Yep.
Same thing goes for operating a business. You got to take care of you first, then you can take care of everybody else. But you can't take care of everybody if you're not taking care of you.
That's true.
And one thing I would say, Drew, and I talk to you and Key a lot off camera just about, the business side.
No, for sure.
Because it's not a hobby anymore. It's not just an idea you have in your head. Sportsplug is a living, breathing business. And the people that support our business don't always get the business mindset that goes along with that. And they're entitled to their opinions, but sometimes it's hard to explain something to people that haven't been to that place.
There we go.
That's why I feel like we connect a lot because we know the business struggles and the business ideas or dealing with customers and people, fan bases. That's a real thing.
For sure.
And we have such great intentions, but yet sometimes people are still pissed off at us or getting mad at us.
Yes.
And like Andy said, it's your business. You're going to run it your way. If somebody has a better idea, they have every right to go, do your thing, create your platform. Instead of being very opinionated on, what we want to do with our business. But I get it though. I do my best to try to meet people in the middle. Even when I totally disagree, I understand where they come from. But like I said, I don't agree with it.
Absolutely.
But for somebody like us, it's like, it's struggles that they will never see that's behind closed doors. I'm charging this price, and it's not $100 going into my pocket. I have overhead, I have employees, I have this, I have that, I
Rent,
have that.
insurance,
Yeah, it's like,
on and on and on.
It's like, but they don't want to hear that standing right there on the other side of the counter. It's just like, man, they call, and I'm like, yo, you mix a good product with the value I bring to the community. I feel like what I'm saying is well worth that price.
Well, yes.
And you continue just to find people that see your value and appreciate your value. And I feel like you kind of eliminate those things. But it's definitely a growing process. Going from just an idea in your head to now a logo that's recognized throughout the state comes with a lot of opinions. Some good, some bad.
And be careful who you listen to.
Be careful who you listen to. Follow your heart.
That's why this meeting was very important too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Andy, I love to see it because, when I think of sports of my generation growing up, once I got out, it's y'all too. My adulthood, I should say.
Yeah.
It's Andy Hilton and it's Sportsplug 757. Those are the two. And I would love to see more of it. And I think it should be encouraged. It's not a competition.
No.
It's collaboration over competition, I'd like to say. And the more and more we come together and work together, the more and more, if we both have the same genuine purpose to give exposure to these kids in this area, we're working towards the same goal. Last time I checked, Nike and Under Armour, Adidas, all worth what? Billions. They're not stopping. Under Armour's not stopping nothing Nike's doing. Nike's not stopping nothing Adidas is doing. It's enough for all of us to come together and eat, business-wise and exposure-wise, to really follow our true passion to give these kids that platform to chase dreams aspirations they say they have.
Absolutely.
So, man, I love being a part of this conversation. I admire you, Andy. I love watching you guys grow from, when I first met y'all to where y'all are now. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
Absolutely.
And I kind of find myself somewhere kind of in the middle when it comes to, I have the apparel, but I also have a love for sports. And, I dabble into, coverage as well. But it's like, I check y'all page and I look and I admire, I get ideas from y'all.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's not a competition. It's like, yo, even when I sent you that website I've been working on, I'm
sure.
like, bro, how can we work together on this?
Stay tuned.
Let's collab on this.
For
like,
sure.
You know what I
Nice.
mean? Like, it's nothing that should ever separate this area. But I know human nature, egos can get involved and people can create barriers. But I'm all for collaboration and us coming together, having these conversations. All the wisdom that you have, you don't have to share it, but you chose to. You know what I mean? So I love that.
I love sharing it.
Absolutely.
I think
It's
it
gonna be a
was,
waste.
it was really
Because one day
historic.
it's gonna be y'all gonna get. I hate to say it, you're gonna get older.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's gonna be another.
already
It's
feeling
gonna be
it.
another young crew coming through. You know what I mean? And they gonna call you Unc.
Yep.
I meant to
I'm
tell
already
you,
getting
Unc,
it a
you
little
Unc
bit.
now, you Unc.
Yeah.
You're not, if you said big brother, I want to say nah, you uncle now. Man.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be the same thing, and it's like when kids walk through that door, say they have a brand. I'm here to share info.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know,
For
the gatekeepers
sure.
are gone. If you truly have a passion, because I'm not going to tell you everything because I want to see how hard you want to work. I'm not going to give you the whole game plan, but I'm going to give you a couple nuggets, see what you come back with. You come back still hungry, asking questions.
I see you stuck. I'm going to help you out
I
the
see
mud.
myself in you. I want to help you. So, know what I mean? I just love everything about this, man. I appreciate being a part of this, and
No,
I
for
just
sure.
want to encourage the area to keep collaborating and working together.
We appreciate you.
No,
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys. And once again, we're in the City on My Chest establishment, the front storefront. We're in the back. Tommy, I appreciate you for lending us this space to have this meaningful conversation. And for you, Andy, I mean, many people haven't heard from you in so many years or a good amount of time.
Been 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, 3.5.
So, yeah, 3.5. Hey, that's a long time for sports, I
Yeah.
tell you. So just for us to be able to have this sit down and get a little bit of clarity and more insight on where Recruit 757 was going, where it was left off, and what it looks like for the future of our sports here as we kind of move into that role, it's been amazing. I'm really ready to take on what we've already started from here on out. So it's been great. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.